Hi guys. So in this video, I will be explaining you what all important concepts that we need to learn before actually going ahead for interview purpose for Java. Okay. So I will cover each and everything starting from core Java, then coding, then DSA based questions, what all topics we need to cover, then Spring Boot, microservice, each and everything just within 45 slides. So without any delay, let's get started. So let's understand step-by-step process to clear your Java interview. Okay, so whether it's fresher or it's experience, so this pattern will be followed across all your experiences in IT sector. Okay, so let's understand what all topics that we need to cover. First is project flow and architecture. Whenever you are going for interview, make sure that first question will be based upon your project. Like what all projects have you worked upon? What are all challenges that you have faced over there? How have you overcome that challenges? If you would have working on that particular project, what different you have done so that the performance was much better as of now. Okay, what different you could have done in that scenario. So these kind of challenging questions you could be asked, so you should be better prepared on that. Okay, and you should be preparing with technical as well as functional aspect of your project. So basically the flow you have to understand. So let's suppose you are having 2 years experience or you are working as a fresher. Okay, so in that scenario you might be working on some internal project. So in that project you need to know end to end, like how that flow is working. If it is in UI side, then how React.js or any other UI framework which you are working upon, how that flow is there. And then from UI, how it is calling your REST API. If it is some security authentication, then how that security authentication is being marked. Okay, so those are things we need to take care of. And which database are you using, like Oracle SQL or NoSQL? Like if it is non-relational, then why you have chosen non-relational databases like MongoDB? So these are things you need to take care of. Okay, so this entire project flow you have to understand first of all. And the architecture, like whenever you have worked upon in any project, there must be some architecture overview of it, right? There cannot be any project without any architecture. So brief level overview and architecture should be very much clear, so that if any cross question come from that project architecture perspective, you should be in a very good state to answer that. Okay, so that is the first question. It will take around 5 to 10 minutes depending upon your answers. Next, let's start discussing about core Java important topics that we need to cover. This is a bare minimum that we have to follow. Okay, it can be more than that, but this is the bare minimum. Without preparing these topics, you should not move ahead for giving interview. It will be the waste of time at least. Okay, so first is OOPS concepts in depth. So there are various OOPS concepts in Java, right? Abstraction, polymorphism, encapsulation. Okay. So these all OOPS concepts that we have gone through, these concepts should be very much clear, not in theoretical perspective, but with respect to practical perspectives. Like they will ask not some random questions, they will ask some real-time questions. Like, where have you made use of polymorphism in real-time scenarios? What are the use cases of method overriding, method overloading? Okay, what are the use cases of encapsulation? Where have you used it in your project? So these kind of questions can become, okay, can come in your interview. So you should be in a very good state to answer this type of problems. Okay, you should prepare at least one or two real-time problems solved based upon this OOPS concept. Like in each OOPS concept, so you can go through classes and object, you can go through inheritance, encapsulation, polymorphism, abstraction. At least try to do 1 to 2 real-time problems with the help of this OOPS concept. Then you can very easily answer this question. Okay. Second type will be string concepts in depth. So they can ask different kind of string concepts, like what's the difference between string and string buffer, or string buffer versus string builder, or string versus string builder. So these type of questions can come. Then there are various memory pools, right? Constant pool and non-constant pool. So what are these within string? What is the intern method in string? Okay, so why we are not overriding separately hash code and equals method? What's the speciality of string? Like string is an immutable class. What is an immutable property? Okay, so that derives from string. Okay, so they can ask you to create a class. Okay, it will have like list or set or map, and then they will tell you, like, I want to make this class an immutable class. So what all steps you need to do? So each and everything is derived from this one concept called immutable concept, which is string class is an immutable class. Okay, and there are other classes also, wrapper classes are also immutables. So we need to understand like what are the importance of using this immutable classes. Okay, and this immutable concept is being asked across all years of experience. It doesn't matter. Okay, so you should be very much clear. And within that, there is one concept of shallow copy and deep copy. So that type of questions can also be asked. So you should better prepare on these important subtopics of this immutability concepts. Okay, Next is hash code and equals method. This is also very important for from collection framework point of view. In strings, we don't override hash code and equals because it already has it, right? So, but if you are creating some other class like employee or student, then we have to override this hash code and equals method, and we have to provide the logic within it. How this hash code and equals method should work. You can provide your own logic. Okay, so Java has its own logic, and if you want to provide your own logic, then you can override it, and then you can provide your own logic for your custom created classes. Okay, and this will vary. Okay, so in case of hash code and equals, how you are returning the data, it will make changes to the end result. So if you have seen one of my hash map based questions, and I've created one separate dedicated video on hash map, specifically on hash code and equals method. I have covered like 14 to 15 different scenarios of hash code and equals method. You can go through that once. Okay, so if we will get the idea like how hash code and equals method works internally. Okay, and if hash code returns one always, what will happen? If equals method is not overridden, then what will happen? If equals method returns true always or false always, then what will happen? So these kind of scenarios that can be asked in interviews. Okay, because as of now interview is getting a little bit tougher. Okay, because competition is high, so you should be very much good in your core concepts. Then collection framework, it is also very much important for interview perspective. Okay, they can start from basic questions like what do you mean by collection interface? What's the difference between collection interface face versus collection framework? What are the varieties of collection framework that you can think of? So is HashMap a part of collection interface or it's a part of collection framework? Okay, so these kind of questions can be asked. Then if you go in depth, they can cover like if I want to sort this hash map based upon their key or based upon their value, these kind of questions can also be asked. Okay, when you will go for array list, when you will go for linked list. Okay, so is hash map thread safe? Is array list thread safe? Okay, if it is not, then how can we make it a thread safe? So these kind of questions can be asked. Then which one you will go for, array list or linked list? Okay, and why? So these kind of small questions that is very much important for interview perspective. Okay, yeah, so you can go through these important concepts. Okay, and then sets are also very important, and internal implementation, that is very important. Internal implementation of all these interfaces like list, set, map. What are the internal implementations of these three and four? Okay, this queue also is important. Okay, they can ask questions on priority queue. What's the difference between normal queue and priority queue? And there's one more queue called blocking queue. What's the difference between all these three? This also can be asked in the interview. Okay, so you should be prepared for all these three. Okay, yeah. Then exception handling in depth. What are the types of exception? What's the topmost exception? Okay, if you see that within object there is a throwable class, which is a topmost exception in the exception hierarchy. Okay, so that is a starting point. And then within that there is compile time, then runtime. Okay, then within that there are certain other sub verifications are there. Okay, there are different categories of exception. Those also you have to go through. Then how you are implementing try, catch, and finally. Okay, which is possible, like try with catch is possible, try catch finally is possible, try without catch is possible, no. Okay, without catch or finally only try will not work out. So these all combinations should be very much clear. Then try with resources, this is a new thing came in Java 8. So this thing also you should be very much clear of that. Okay, this type of question can also come. Yeah, so these all things accumulated should be very much clear. And then how to create your custom exception class, this is also very important. Okay, so you have to create one new class extending runtime exception, then you have super to pass the message, then you have to throw that. So how will you throw that custom exception? That is also one more question. Okay, so you can throw it within method declaration or method body. It should be within the method body, that is method definition. Okay, not within method declaration. So these all things. Then throw versus throws, there are various kind of questions that can be asked in exception handling. Okay, then how this default exception handling propagation works. Okay, exception handling propagation, this is also very important. Okay, so you should just go through all these topics. Then immutability, that we have already discussed. What is immutability? What's the best example of immutability? How to make a class a immutable class if it contains list or set or map? This kind of questions can come. Okay, so be prepared. And shallow copy and deep copy, these type of questions can also come. Okay, then multi-threading based question. This is a famous question. Okay, this is like favorite question for interviewers. Covering two concepts. If I cover like collection framework and multi-threading, it will comprise of 50 to 60% of the Java interviews. Okay, so you should be very much clear in this multi-threading. And if you are a fresher, then yeah, you should not go to in depth of executor framework. It's not required for interview purpose. But if you are an experienced person, like 3 years or 4 years experience, then executor framework is very much important. Okay, it's an advanced version of multi-threading concepts. Okay, and why we are going for executor framework? What are the types of the pools, thread pools? Okay, what's a default join thread pool? Okay, these all type of questions are very important. Then deadlock scenario. What is the deadlock situation? How can we resolve that? What's a race around condition? How can we resolve that? Okay, then lock concepts. Previously, synchronization concept was there, right? Synchronization was applied over can be applied over a class, or it can be applied over a method, or it can be applied over a block of statements. Okay, so what's the difference between synchronization and this lock concept? What are the types of lock, like read write lock and reintent lock? These are the types of locks, right? When to use which one? Okay, and why this lock concepts came? Difference between synchronization and lock. Okay, this is also very important for interview purpose. Okay, yeah, you should go ahead with these three. And then executor framework, then within that there is fixed joint pool, cache thread pool, then single threaded pool, scheduled thread pool. What are these? What are the internal data structure within this? What? And there is a producer consumer problem in multi-threading, that also you should be going ahead. Okay, this is also very important for interview purpose. Then there is a blocking queue, which is an internal data structure being used in these thread pools, so you should go ahead with these. Okay, yeah, so this I think we have already discussed. Then memory management. Okay, so how the memory is being managed internally in JVM. Okay, the entire memory management model, that should be very much clear. Okay, then register, this stack, then this garbage collection process. Okay, how this garbage collection process work? Okay, then thread pools, the stack, how the data get removed from the thread pool, and when the heap memory objects will be cleared. Okay, then this young gen, old gen, then there is perm gen. Okay, metaspace. Okay, these all things should be very much clear. Okay, so why metaspace came into picture? Okay, when the old objects gets removed from the heap, and when it gets moved to different stages. Okay, from young gen to old gen, how the data gets moved. Okay, so these all kind of models should be very much clear. Okay, then garbage collection. Okay, so garbage collection, how garbage collection works. Okay, so internally, what are the types of garbage collection process? Okay, it's actually a low priority thread. Okay, and how garbage collection actually happens, and what are the advantages and disadvantages? So these all kind of questions that can be asked. Okay, then different kind of inheritance based questions can also be asked, with exceptions, without exceptions, with serialization, without serialization. Okay, so you should prepare inheritance different varieties of question that I've already covered in my previous video, so you can go through that as well. Okay, then is Java passed by value or passed by reference? So these questions are most probably asked to freshers, but they are asked to experienced candidates as well. It has been asked to me also in the interview. Is Java passed by value or passed by reference? Okay, so basically try to pass some primitive type values like int, float, double, char, boolean. These kind of values, you try to pass it to another method and try to fetch that variable value in that caller method. And try to see like if the value of that variable is changing or not after calling that variable, after calling that method, and make changes to that variable. So let's suppose variable is a, value of a is 5. You have defined a equal to 5. Now you are calling test method and you are passing a variable to that method. Okay, and within that method you are changing the value of a to a equal to a plus 5 or a minus 5 or a into 5, anything you are doing. Okay, and after that in the caller method, which is calling that test method, let's suppose it's a main method. In that, try to fetch the value of a. What's the value of a? So is it is that value of a is being modified, or is it the old value only? That you try to check first. Okay, so if it is trying to modify, like the value of a is changed from main method a to different test method, value gets changed. Okay, and while fetching in the main method, the value of a, you are seeing like it's a different than what we have initialized it in the main method. That means it's passed by what? Passed by reference. Okay, but if you test it, it will be not changing. Okay, so if you try to see it, it will not change its value. It will remain the same. because the scope of that variable will be limited to that method only. And once that method calling gets finished, it will get removed from the stack and the value of a will be reinitialized to its old value. Okay, so that is for primitive type. But if it is non-primitive, like if it is array list, if it is queue, or if it is any other type of data, then it can hold the state of that field values. Okay, so let's suppose employee is there. Employee will have ID, name, age, salary, those things. Okay, and we are passing that employee object to that another test method. Okay, and within that we are trying to set those values, like you are setting ID, name, age. Okay, and after setting, then in main method you are trying to get those fields. Okay, get ID, get name. Then what we will see over there, like the value of those fields gets modified. Previously employee object was not having any data, but after calling that method, the employee object will have these field values being set. Okay, because it has been set in a different method. So now it has been passed internally by value. Okay, so there is pass by value and there is pass by reference. Okay, so these all things we need to understand. So generally Java is passed by value. Okay, because here you are passing the reference, but actually the content, the memory address which is being observed, it is being same across all. Okay, because the same object is being passed to another method. Okay, so generally Java will be passed by value only, not reference. Okay, then questions based upon Java 8, Java 11, Java 17. Okay, so there are various kind of questions that can be asked. First can be default and static method. What's the difference? When to go for default method? When to go for static method? Then lambda expression based question, functional interface based questions. Like there are certain internally implemented functional interfaces, right? Which are by default previously there in Java. What all inbuilt functional interfaces which are already there, like predicate, function, consumer, supplier. These are inbuilt functional interfaces. And then if you want to create your own functional interface, then what will you do? This type of question can also be asked, right? Then how will you make use of lambda expression to do some modification or do some calculation? So how will you make use of lambda expression over there? So this type of question can also be asked. Okay, functional interface I already told you. Okay, is at that functional interface required or not to make it functional interface? Okay, these type of questions can come. Okay, then how these lambda function and functional interfaces are interlinked with each other? Okay, so this question can also be asked. How can you relate these two? Okay, so if there is no functional interface, then you can't make use of lambda expression. Okay, so if you can see, if you have worked upon streams, you will get the idea. Like if you are using filter method, within filter method it is accepting predicate type data, and predicate is having predicate is having test method. Okay, in test method it is checking the condition. If that condition is true, then only filter will be filtering data, filtering the input data, and then it will provide the output. So how is it working internally? How it is filtering data? Because internally it is implemented predicate function interface. That is, it has test method which actually filters the input data. So this is the relation between lambda function and functional interface. Okay. Then optional class. So this is also a very important question asked in interview. Like, what are the advantages of making use of optional class except checking null pointer issues? So we are making use of optional class so that we can omit null checks, okay, again and again. So is there any other usage of optional class except this null checks? That also questions can be asked. So you can go through that as well, okay. Then stream API based question, I've already told you, different kind of stream based question. I've already created separate videos on that. You can go through that. Then pattern matching based questions, that can also be asked. Okay, there's some rejects pattern. We should be knowing like how to know how to implement which rejects pattern for a particular requirement that has been given to us in the interview. Okay, so pattern matching based question can also be asked. Okay, then there is something called as Java X. Okay, Java X you are using in your entity layer, right? So in Java 17 that has been changed. Okay, so just go through that and try to see like what has been changed from Java X. Okay, so now in Java 17 we are not using Java X. What we are using, or in the entity layer basically, to fetch the data. Okay, wherever you are writing at entities, you previously we are making use of Java X, right? So now what you are making use of? So just go through that. Okay. Then Spring Framework, Spring Boot, and microservices. What are the important questions based upon this? So first is Spring versus Spring Boot. What are advantages? What are the advantages of Spring Boot over Spring? This will be the first question that can be asked. Okay. Then what are the auto configuration feature? What are the different feature? Specifically, they will focus upon this auto configuration at the Spring Boot application. Then they can ask about what are the dependencies you are making use of in pom.xml, starter dependencies. Okay, Spring Boot starter data JPA, Spring Boot starter test. Okay, so these starter dependencies are very much important. Then what is Spring Boot starter parent? There is a parent dependency you are adding in pom.xml. What's the advantage of that? Does it download on only the dependencies, or does it do some different things? Okay, it doesn't download dependencies. Okay, so what does it do? You just go ahead and see. Okay, a Spring Boot starter parent. This is question that has been asked to me in EPAM. Okay, just try to understand why this type of questions are asked. It is very important. Okay, then dependency injection versus IOC. Okay, there's inversion of control and dependency injection. These two look similar only. Okay, and it is similar only. There is slight difference. Okay, try to see what's the difference between these two. And this is asked in interview. Okay, and what are the annotations you have used in your REST API implementation? Okay, so in the controller layer, you might have been using at the request controller, then at the request body, then post mapping, get mapping, whatever annotations you have used in your REST API, that you have to tell in your interview. Okay. Then CRUD operation, what all CRUD operations you have implemented in your project, that you have to explain. Okay. Then bean scopes, what are the scopes in bean? Okay, like singleton, profile. Yeah, at the rate profile is also there. That also you have to provide. Like what is a profile? TAFE profile, prod profile. Okay, what are the types of profile? SIT, UAT, those things you have to provide. Then scope of bean that I already told you, like scope is singleton or prototype, or then global. Okay, request session, global session. Okay, these all kind of scopes are there that also you have to go through it. Okay, and what are the bean life cycle? What is a bean? They can ask question on it. What is a bean? Okay, then bean life cycle based question is also very important. Okay, then AOP, there is a AOP, aspect oriented programming, which provides cross-cutting concerns. Okay, what are the advantages of making use of AOP? Those also can be asked in interviews. Okay, then exception handling in Spring Boot. Okay, so how will you handle exception in Spring Boot? There is exception handler. You can create one separate class. Okay, and you can have exception handler. Okay, then you can have risk controller advice, and then you can handle separate exceptions over there. Okay, how to do that in exception handling, that is also very important for Spring Boot based interview questions. Okay, then Spring security, they can ask questions on Spring security as well, like how have you implemented security in your project, like JWT token, or OAuth if you have implemented, how have you implemented, then Okta if you have implemented, how you have implemented, then where in which layer you have implemented, what is API gateway, okay, what's the importance of API gateway. So these all questions can be asked in interviews. Okay, what are actuator? Okay, generally measures the health of your application. Okay, then there are various endpoints present in actuator. Okay, like slash beats. Okay, then slash refresh. What are the importance of these endpoints? You can just go through that as well. Okay, then what are webflux and mono frameworks? These are present in Spring Boot. Okay, so it is generally useful for concurrent transactions. Okay, and how we can make use of that also we have to go through that. Okay, so just go through that. Webflux and mono frameworks, these are very important. Okay, and this has come in latest Java 11 or 17. Okay, then what are HTTP methods present? Okay, so those also you have to go through. Different HTTP methods are there, right? Like post, put, delete options, get, connect, head, trace. These all are HTTP methods. So you can just go through all these methods. Okay. And what are the errors you are getting? Status codes, 200, okay, 500 error, 404 URL not found, 400, okay, 403 forbidden. So these kind of most commonly asked status codes are also important in interviews. Then Spring JPA. What are Spring JPA? Spring Data JPA. Why we generally go for Spring Data JPA over other? Okay, then when we go for native queries, when we can go for Spring Data JPA implementation. Okay, so these all questions can be asked in interview. Then microservices important concepts can be asked, like how will you do the fault tolerance in your application. Okay, then how will you call other microservice from your current microservice. Okay, that is communication between microservices. Okay, how will you build resilience, like resilience 4J you have to make use of, how will you make use of, how will you make use of circuit breakers, what are the design pattern in microservices. Okay, what are load balancers. Okay, what are Fin client, what is Eureka, what is service discovery, what is service registry. These type of questions can be asked. So only 8 to 10 varieties of questions are there in microservice. If you can go through that, I bet you will be very much good to go to clear any interview. The main 90% is core Java plus data structure coding only. 10% is covering these things. Okay. And yeah, design patterns also very important, which I am coming. Then Spring Cloud. Okay, whatever circuit breaker design pattern you are implementing or anything with respect to Spring Cloud you are implementing, then you have to put dependencies for Spring Cloud. You have to import some certain libraries in your classes, and then you have to write logic on that. Okay, circuit breaker, if you implement, you will get to know, okay, what's the importance of the Spring Cloud. So practice on that in your project as well. Okay. Then some coding questions. What are coding questions that can be asked in interview? Let's understand that. Yeah, this is very much common. The basic data structure that is asked in interview: array, string, stack, queue, and linked list. So in 2025, the latest thing I'm telling, these all questions, yeah, will be there based upon these topics. Okay. So most commonly asked in stacks is valid parenthesis. Okay. Then linked list and is like sum of, can you sum the numbers in linked list like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? These all are numbers which are passed in nodes and the form of nodes in linked list. And how will you add these nodes value? Okay, so these questions can be asked. Okay, and priority queue based question, heap based questions. Okay, arrays, in arrays there are 3 to 4 algorithms. How will you resolve that type of problems? Okay, like two pointer approach, like Cardin's algorithm, prefix sum algorithm, sliding window based problem. So these all are algorithms coming under array. So try to prepare on these first before actually jumping onto advanced data structure. Then hash map based questions can be asked. That I already told you. With the use of streams, how will you sort the hash map by key or by value? And without streams, how will you do that? This type of questions can be asked. Okay, so prepare on hash map based problems. Okay, these are very much important. Like 90% chance are there that this type of questions can come. Okay. Yeah, stream-based question that I already told you. What all different kind of stream-based questions are there that I've already covered in my previous lectures. You can go through that as well. Okay. Recursion and backtracking. Recursion will be basics that can be asked, and backtracking is a little bit advanced version of strings. Okay. Sorry, recursion. So it is advanced version of recursion. So once your recursion concepts are clear, then only backtracking you will be very much clear, like how this concepts work. Okay. So if you know recursion, then you know that from which point you need to backtrack. Okay, so recursion concepts are very important. And if you are understanding any advanced level data structure like backtracking, binary tree, BST, DP, graph, anything, recursion is must. So if you don't know recursion, this entire thing you will not be able to understand. So first try to give at least 15-20 days to understand recursion if you don't know anything about recursion. Okay, as a fresher, I'm telling you. Then try to understand searching and sorting, specifically merge sort and quick sort, because they are having much more optimized time complexity. Okay, so try to learn those sorting techniques first. Okay, and if you don't know bubble sort, quick sort, selection sorts, or insertion sorts, first learn that bubble sort, selection sort, and insertion sort. Then you will understand how time complexity is getting reduced in merge sort and quick sort. Okay, and in which type of scenarios this type of sorting will be used, that also you need to go through. And in searching, there are two types of searching, right? Linear search and binary search. In that, binary search is very much important. Okay, so just implement this binary searching. Okay, and what are the different modified binary search approaches are there? Try to practice questions based upon that, because in Walmart, modified binary search based problems are asked. Okay, so try to practice those type of questions as well. Yeah, in advanced data structure, it will have I've already told you, like DP based question, 1D, 2D DP. Okay, then isolation island based question, graph based question. Okay, then try based question can be asked, and binary trees, binary search tree. Okay, how to see from different angles of the binary tree, like left view, bottom view, right view, side view, different kind of views you should be going ahead with. How to convert binary tree to BST. Okay, heap based question. So these are all the basic level questions that you can go through before actually going to sit for your interviews. Okay, then there's some DevOps based questions can also be asked in interviews, right? So how are you deploying your application? Okay, so how are you creating your Docker file image? Okay, how are you creating clusters in Kubernetes? Okay, how are you deploying your services in AWS? What are the settings you are doing? What are the IAM policies? Okay, so how are you creating your Jenkins file? How are you pointing, like which particular file the entire flow of deployment will work through? So these type of questions can be asked. So DevOps are very much important. Okay, so just they are asking to Java developers also and DevOps based developers also. These DevOps are very much important. I'm not telling you like go into in depth of all these, yeah, but basic and overview of these concepts we should know. Okay, so that at least you can answer these questions comfortably in the interview. Okay, and yeah, at last but not the least, this is very much important, design pattern and solid principle. This will be like 99% chance are there this will be asked, like what are solid principles. Okay, then they will focus specifically upon that Liskov substitution principle. What are the real-time scenario where Liskov substitution principle can be violated? Okay, that scenario you should be studying. Okay, then design pattern, there is some creational design pattern, structural design pattern, behavioral design pattern. That also you should be going through that. Okay, because if you are focusing upon one of the design pattern only, like creational, then they can ask about some strategy design pattern. What is strategy? This is coming under different type of design pattern, not in creational. So at least try to see top 3 to 4 design pattern in 3 types. Okay, so that you can comfortably answer those. Okay, it's like gang of 4 design patterns, so try to go through at least all design pattern once. Okay, and solid principles, these are very much important, you can go through that. And there's atomicity, there's acid properties in SQL. Okay, that also is very important. Solid principle in this low level design, and acid property in SQL. So just go through those. Okay, atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. Okay, then SQL based questions. This is very common, like 2 to 3 questions at max they can ask. They can ask this common question like nth largest or smallest employee data I want based upon their salary. Like nth largest or smallest salary employee I want the data. Or some joins based question. They will give some 2 to 3 table. They will tell you like how will you join this 2 table based upon this column, which can be primary key and it can be foreign key to another table. Only these 2 to 3 type of question that can be asked. Okay, then they can ask question based upon union, then between. Okay, then find all. These type of fields are there, they can ask question based upon that. Okay, yeah, so I think if you can cover these things it will be fine. Okay, and then they can tell you to find nth largest smallest without making use of limit keyword. So try to practice at least 2 to 3 ways of writing query to find this nth largest and smallest. Okay, I hope you got the clarity on that. Yeah, so this was it for this video. I hope you got the clarity and step-by-step process, like what all important concepts that we have to definitely study before actually going ahead for clearing your interviews. So we'll be going ahead with different videos in different set of concepts. So till then, it's Devjit Roy signing off. Bye bye. So happy new year to each and every one of you. So stay happy, stay blessed. Bye.